I want no further comfort with him. If you tell him for me, then he can live or he can die. Then sit with you. Shut up in 2020. Al Pacino's heart stopped beating. Paramedics brought him back. But something changed forever. At 84, the man who gave us The Godfather lives a life no one expected. Broke after losing $50 million doing movies. He hates to survive and becoming a dad at 83 with a girlfriend, young enough to be his granddaughter. From DNA test drama to his dark beliefs about death, here's why Hollywood's greatest actor is now its loneliest. Al Pacino was born on April 25, 1940, in East Harlem, New York City. His parents, Rosa Girardi and Salvatore Pacino, were Sicilian immigrants trying to build a life in America. Their marriage didn't last long. When Pacino was just 2 years old, his father left for California to work as an insurance salesman. That left Pacino's mother to raise him alone in the South Bronx with the help of his grandparents Kate and James Girardi. They had come from Corleone, Sicily, a town that would later become famous because of the Godfather life in the Bronx. During the 1940s and 1950s was tough. His family struggled with money, and his father's absence created a gap that never really closed. But his mother gave him something that would shape his future. She loved movies and often took him to the theater, where he got lost in the stories on screen. Acting fascinated him even before he understood what it really was. Those early trips to the movies planted a seed that would later grow into a lifelong passion. As he got older, Pacino became known as Sonny among his friends. He had a wild side and was always pushing boundaries. By the time he was 9, he had already started smoking and drinking. By 13, he was experimenting with marijuana. He had little interest in school and was constantly in trouble. Fights, skipping class, and breaking rules became a routine. He was expelled from multiple schools before getting into the High School of Performing Arts. It seemed like the right place for someone like him, but he didn't stay long. At 17, after a fight with his mother about his future, he dropped out. With no high school diploma and no steady job, he spent his teenage years drifting. He ran with a group of friends who, like him, had no real direction. Some got into trouble. Some turned to drugs. 3 of his closest friends, Cliffy Bruce and Petey, would later die from drug overdoses. Pacino could have easily ended up the same way, but something kept him going. Acting became an escape, a way to focus his restless energy on something bigger than himself. He later said that if it weren't for acting, he might not have made it out at all. Then came the losses that changed him forever. In 1962, when Pacino was just 22, his mother died at the age of 43. She had struggled with depression for years, and her death hit him harder than anything before. Just a year later, his grandfather James, who had been like a father to him, also passed away. In the span of a year, the 2 most important people in his life were gone. He later called that time the lowest point of his life. He felt lost, like there was nothing left to hold on to. Many years later, in his memoir, Sonny Boy, named after the nickname his mother gave him, he wrote about his pain. If I am lucky enough, perhaps I'll reunite with my mother there. All I want is the chance to walk up to her and simply say, "Hey, Ma, see what happened to me." After losing his mother and grandfather, Pacino threw himself into acting. It wasn't easy. He took any job he could find, janitor, busboy, messenger, postal clerk, just to pay for acting classes. He studied at HB Studio in Greenwich Village, where he met Charlie Lawton, an acting teacher who would become one of his closest mentors. But money was always a problem. There were nights when he had nowhere to go. He slept on friends' couches, sometimes even in theaters, when he had nowhere else to stay. During the early 1960s, he was so broke that he had to sleep on the streets, while taking whatever small roles he could find in underground theater productions. Al Pacino's career took a major turn in 1968, when he starred in The Indian Wants the Bronx, an off-Broadway play written by Israel Horowitz. It premiered on January 17th at the Astor Place Theater in New York City and ran for 177 performances. His portrayal of Murph had a raw energy that felt dangerous, yet strangely human. He wasn't just playing a violent troublemaker. He was showing the layers beneath the aggression. Critics took notice, and so did the industry. He won the Obie Award for Best Actor. His co-star John Cazale won Best Supporting Actor, and Horowitz received one for Best New Play. Something even more important happened behind the scenes, The Indian, once the Bronx was staged alongside another Horowitz play. It's called The Sugar Plum, starring Jill Kleberg, who was Pacino's romantic partner at the time. Through this production, Pacino met Martin Bregman, a man who would change his life. Bregman saw something special in him and became his manager. He would later help Pacino land some of his most iconic roles in The Godfather, Serpico, and Dog Day Afternoon. Pacino later said that without Bregman, his career might not have happened the way it did. Just a year later, Pacino made his Broadway debut in Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie? The play, written by Don Peterson, opened at the Belasco Theater in 1969. It told the story of teenage drug addicts in a rehabilitation center tackling themes of addiction and redemption. Pacino played Bicom, a troubled young addict with a tough exterior, hiding deep emotional wounds. The production only ran for 39 performances after 9 previews, but it left a lasting impact. Jack Kroll from Newsweek called him a hood with a poetic soul. Variety named him the most promising new Broadway actor. At just 29, he won the Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Play. That moment changed everything. Pacino's ability to bring so much depth to his roles came from years of training. He had studied under Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio in New York City, one of the most respected acting schools in the world. Strasberg was a master of method acting, teaching actors to tap into their own emotions to create realistic performances. Pacino later said that training with Strasberg gave him the confidence to pursue acting full-time. Al Pacino's journey to playing Michael Corleone in The Godfather wasn't just difficult. It was a battle. Today, his performance is legendary, but back in 1972, the idea of casting him nearly derailed the entire production. Paramount Pictures wanted a bankable star, someone like Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, Robert Redford, or Ryan O'Neal. Pacino, at the time, was barely known. He had only one film credit and a strong theater background, but that wasn't enough for the studio. They didn't see him as a leading man. They wanted someone taller, someone who fit the Hollywood image of a star. Francis Ford Coppola thought otherwise. He had seen Pacino on Broadway and believed he was perfect for Michael Corleone. He saw something in Pacino that no one else did. The ability to capture Michael's transformation from an innocent war hero to a ruthless mafia boss. Coppola refused to back down, leading to endless fights with the studio. At one point, Paramount tested James Caan for the role of Michael and gave Coppola an ultimatum. Pacino could stay, but only if Caan played Sonny Corleone, even after filming started. The studio still wasn't convinced. They watched early footage of Pacino's performance and wanted him gone. Coppola knew he had to prove Pacino's worth and fast. He decided to film the restaurant assassination scene earlier than planned. It was a pivotal moment. Michael's first real step into the mafia world. When the Paramount executives saw it, everything changed. They finally understood what Coppola had seen all along. Pacino wasn't just good. He was unforgettable. From that moment on, his place in the film was secure. That role changed everything for him. His performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, even though many believed he should have been in the Best Actor category. He boycotted the ceremony in protest, refusing to attend because he felt sidelined. But even without the win, his career skyrocketed. The Godfather grossed over $250 million against a $6 million budget, won Best Picture at the Oscars, and made Pacino a star. His portrayal of Michael was praised for its quiet intensity, the way he could communicate so much with just a glance. That chilling stare during the restaurant scene became one of the cinema's most iconic moments. But getting there wasn't easy. Pacino later admitted he was terrified during filming. The pressure was overwhelming. The constant threat of being fired loomed over him, making it hard to focus. He even suffered a severe ankle injury while filming a getaway scene. The pain was so bad, he needed injections just to keep going. Strangely, his first reaction to the injury was relief. He thought it might get him fired, which at the time seemed easier than dealing with the stress of proving himself. Coppola knew how much Pacino was struggling and did everything he could to help. He adjusted the filming schedule to give him more time to settle into the role. He also leaned on Diane Keaton, Pacino's co-star, who became his emotional support on set. She helped lighten the mood, and they often laughed together after difficult scenes. Pacino would later say that without Coppola's belief in him, he might never have made it through. In Serpico, 1973, Pacino starred as Frank Serpico, a real-life NYPD officer who blew the whistle on corruption within the department. Pacino prepared for the role by spending time with the real Serpico, learning how he spoke and moved. He wanted to understand the deep sense of isolation that came with standing against his fellow officers. The production faced challenges from the start. Originally, John G. Avildsen was set to direct, but he was replaced by Lumet just before filming. The shoot took place in the summer of 1973, with real New York streets providing the backdrop. The heat, combined with Lumet's fast-paced directing style, created an intense atmosphere on set. Pacino's performance earned him an Academy Award nomination and a Golden Globe win. With a budget of just a few $1,000,000, the film made nearly $30 million at the box office. Over time, Serpico became a defining film in the crime genre, and Pacino's portrayal remains one of the most powerful in his career. A decade later, Pacino took on one of his most iconic roles in Scarface, 1983. He played Tony Montana, a Cuban refugee who rises to power in Miami's drug trade. The film, directed by Brian De Palma and written by Oliver Stone, was inspired by the 1932 classic, but was updated for the excess and violence of the 1980s. Tony Montana is brutal, ambitious, and unrelenting. From the moment he arrives in the United States, he is determined to take whatever he wants. Pacino threw himself into the role, crafting every detail of Tony's persona. His accent, his mannerisms, even the way he held a gun, all were carefully planned. During filming, he suffered a serious burn on his hand after grabbing the barrel of a hot gun. The injury delayed production, but showed his dedication to making the character feel real. The film faced backlash upon release. Critics attacked its extreme violence and heavy use of profanity. The Cuban community in Miami also protested its portrayal of immigrants forcing parts of the film to be shot in Los Angeles. Instead, the controversy didn't stop Scarface from finding an audience. It grossed $66 million worldwide and became a cult classic. Tony Montana's rise and fall serve as a cautionary role about greed and power lines. Like "Say Hello to My Little Friend" became legendary, and the film's influence stretched into hip-hop video games and pop culture. Over time, Scarface was recognized as one of the greatest gangster films ever made. In 1992, Pacino played a very different kind of character in Scent of a Woman, a role that finally won him an Academy Award for Best Actor. He starred as Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade, a blind and bitter Army veteran who spends a weekend with a young prep school student named Charlie Sims, played by Chris O'Donnell. The film follows their journey as Slade teaches Charlie about life while secretly battling his own inner darkness. To prepare for the role Pacino wore opaque contact lenses to block his vision. He used a cane, even when the cameras weren't rolling, to make his blindness feel natural. His performance balanced humor and intensity, making Slade one of the most memorable characters of his career. One of the film's most famous moments is the tango scene, where Slade, despite his blindness, leads a young woman in a perfect dance. When Scarface hit theaters in 1983, it caused an uproar. Critics attacked it for extreme violence, constant profanity, and what they saw as a glorification of drug culture. The chainsaw scene, which happens just 20 minutes into the film, shocked audiences. Some, like writers Kurt Vonnegut and John Irving, even walked out of screenings. But the controversy didn't stop there. Many Cuban immigrants in Miami protested, arguing that the film portrayed them as criminals and drug traffickers. They believed it reinforced harmful stereotypes, turning their community into the face of Miami's drug trade. Even Hollywood insiders saw trouble coming. Martin Scorsese reportedly warned Stephen Bauer, who played Tony Montana's best friend, that Hollywood would hate the film because it exposed their own corruption. But it was a major success, grossing over $134 million worldwide against a $31 million budget. Pacino's performance was celebrated, and his character's signature phrase, "Hoo-ah," became instantly recognizable. His Oscar win was seen as long overdue, rewarding an actor who had already delivered some of the greatest performances in film history. Over time, the film found a second life. It became a cult classic, especially in hip-hop and Latino communities, where Tony Montana symbolized ambition and defiance. That rise in popularity only fueled debates. Did Scarface warn against excess, or had it become a symbol of the very thing it condemned? Even now, the discussion continues, proving that some films never lose their impact. Years later, Pacino took on another controversial role in HBO's Paterno, a 2018 film about the Penn State child abuse scandal. It focused on a crucial 2-week period in 2011 when Joe Paterno, a football legend with over 400 career wins, saw his reputation destroyed. His former assistant, Jerry Sandusky, had been arrested for sexually abusing young boys. Sandusky was later sentenced to 30 to 60 years in prison. The film raised one haunting question: how much did Paterno know? Pacino's performance captured a man torn between his football empire and the growing scandal. In one scene, Paterno recalls a 2001 report from an assistant coach who had seen Sandusky molesting a boy in a team shower. Paterno informed university officials but never followed up. That decision overshadowed everything he had built. Critics praised Pacino for showing Paterno's internal conflict, but the film itself left audiences divided. Some saw Paterno as a scapegoat, while others believed he had turned a blind eye. Over 300 of his former players protested the movie, claiming it unfairly destroyed his legacy. Just months after being fired from Penn State, Paterno died of lung cancer at age 85. The film didn't take a side. Instead, it forced viewers to decide whether Paterno was guilty of inaction or simply caught in a system that failed everyone. Pacino stepped into another controversial role in 2013 with HBO's Phil Spector. The film explored the life of the legendary music producer, known for revolutionizing sound in the 1960s and for his bizarre personal life. In 2003, Spector was accused of murdering actress Lana Clarkson at his mansion. The movie focused on his relationship with the defense attorney Linda Kenny Baden, played by Helen Mirren, who questioned whether he could get a fair trial. Unlike a typical courtroom drama, Phil Spector didn't focus on the legal battle. Instead, it showed a man losing control of his own narrative. Was he a misunderstood genius, or was he exactly what the world believed? The film never gave a clear answer, leaving audiences as conflicted as they were when the case first made headlines. Off-screen, Pacino faced his own real-life drama. In 2011, he discovered he had lost $50 million. His longtime accountant, Kenneth Starr, had been running a Ponzi scheme. Pacino, who had spent decades earning millions per film, was nearly wiped out overnight. Starr had built a reputation as a trusted financial advisor, managing money for Hollywood's biggest stars. Behind the scenes, he had been stealing from them. When the scheme collapsed, he was arrested and sentenced to 7 years in prison. Pacino returned from an expensive European vacation, only to learn the money was gone. In his memoir Sonny Boy, he described the moment he realized the full extent of the betrayal. I had $50 million, and then I had nothing to recover. Pacino took on unexpected projects. He starred in Jack and Jill, a film he later admitted he only did for the paycheck. He took speaking engagements and even appeared in commercials. He called that time a crazy montage of loss, but in the end, it taught him resilience. Even at the top of Hollywood, no one is untouchable. Al Pacino has never been just an actor. He has always been a storyteller, someone who looks for meaning in the roles he plays and the projects he takes on. His passion for acting goes beyond performing. He wants to understand the craft, break it down, and share it with others. That drive led him to step behind the camera. His first major project as a director was Looking for Richard in 1996. This was not a traditional film. It was a documentary, a performance, and a personal journey. All in one, Pacino wanted to show why Shakespeare still matters. He chose Richard III, a play about power and ambition, and set out to prove that its themes still resonate. The film moves between different styles. There are dramatized scenes from Richard III with actors like Alec Baldwin, Winona Ryder, and Kevin Spacey. There are interviews with scholars and actors including Kenneth Branagh and Vanessa Redgrave. The film was a success. It won the Directors Guild of America Award for Outstanding Directorial Achievement. In a documentary in 1997, critics praised it for making Shakespeare accessible and engaging. Peter Travers described it as a great adventure and outrageous fun. 4 years later, in 2001, he directed Chinese Coffee. This was a completely different kind of project. It was not about history or literature. It was about two men sitting in a room talking. The film was adapted from a play by Ira Lewis, and Pacino had performed it on stage in 1992. The story follows Harry Levine, a struggling writer, played by Pacino, and Jake Mannheim, a photographer played by Jerry Orbach. Set in 1982 in Greenwich Village, it takes place over a single night, as the two friends have a long and intense conversation. It premiered at the Telluride Film Festival in 2000 and was later screened at the Tribeca Film Festival. It did not reach a wide audience, but those who saw it appreciated its honesty. It was eventually released on DVD in 2007 as part of a box set titled Pacino, an actor's vision, giving more people the chance to see this hidden gem. Beyond directing, Pacino has spent years shaping the next generation of actors. Since 2000, he has been co-president of the Actors Studio, along with Ellen Burstyn and Harvey Keitel. This is not just any acting school. It is the place where some of the greatest actors in history trained Pacino himself. Studied there under legends like Lee Strasberg and Charlie Lawton, he has always said that the studio changed his life. Now he helps it do the same for others. For Pacino, the Actors Studio is a place where actors can take risks. It is not about fame or success. It is about pushing yourself, about learning without fear. Many of Hollywood's greatest talents, including James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Paul Newman, and Jack Nicholson, came from this school. Pacino continues to guide young actors through workshops and discussions. He does not just teach technique. He encourages them to read, to think, to explore philosophy and literature. He believes that acting is not just about performance. It is about understanding life. Al Pacino has spent a lifetime in the spotlight, but when it comes to marriage, he never took that step. Despite high-profile relationships with Diane Keaton, Beverly D'Angelo, and Kathleen Quinlan, he remained a lifelong bachelor. In his 2024 memoir Sonny Boy, he explained why he never saw marriage as something that would help his life. He even called it an entrance to the pain train. His views on commitment were shaped by personal fears, and no relationship ever changed that his time with Diane Keaton is one of Hollywood's most famous love stories. They met while filming The Godfather in 1972. She found him charming, but also mysterious. Their relationship lasted on and off for years, but by 1990, Keaton had enough while filming The Godfather part. 3, she gave him an ultimatum: commit or it's over. Pacino refused, and she walked away. Another serious relationship came earlier, with Kathleen Quinlan. They met in 1979 at a party hosted by acting coach Lee Strasberg. The two were inseparable for years, even traveling across Europe together. Pacino later admitted that Quinlan was the closest he ever came to marriage, but in the end he backed out. It was a decision that left him heartbroken for years. Though he never married, fatherhood became an important part of his life. In June 2023, at the age of 83, he welcomed his fourth child, a son named Roman, with 29-year-old Noor Al-Fallah. The news shocked many, especially after reports surfaced that Pacino requested a paternity test. He simply didn't believe he could still have children. When the results confirmed Roman was his, he embraced fatherhood again. Pacino and Al-Fallah began dating in 2020 during the pandemic, but their relationship wasn't public until April 2022. Their 54-year age gap drew attention, though Al-Fallah was known for dating older men. She had been linked to Mick Jagger and Clint Eastwood. In the past, Roman is her first child. But Pacino already had 3. Twins, Anton James and Olivia Rose, born in 2001 with Beverly D'Angelo, and his eldest daughter Julie Marie, born in 1989 with acting coach Jan Tarrant. Becoming a father again at 83 changed his life. His own father abandoned him when he was young, and he never wanted to repeat that cycle. Even after separating from Alfala, he remained involved. He connects with Roman through video calls, and the two even play harmonica together. At 84, Pacino is still working. In 2021, he starred in House of Gucci, and his upcoming projects prove he has no plans to slow down. One of the most anticipated is Modi, a film about Italian artist Amedeo Modigliani, directed by Johnny Depp. The film follows 3 intense days in Modigliani's life, as he struggles with his art and personal demons. Pacino is also starring in The Ritual, a horror film based on the true story of Emma Schmidt's exorcisms. The movie, set for release on April 18, 2025, follows 2 priests performing dangerous exorcisms while battling their own pasts. Beyond that, he is involved in Billy Knight and Killing Castro, proving his passion for storytelling is as strong as ever. For Pacino, acting isn't just a career. It's something that kept him going through the toughest moments of his life. He often says it saved his life. His life has had its share of struggles. In 2020, a near-death experience changed his outlook forever. During an illness, he lost his pulse and had to be revived by paramedics. After that, he became convinced there was no afterlife. It was a belief he shared openly. At this stage in life, Pacino is still active, still a father, and still reflecting on everything he's been through. He never followed the traditional path, but that never stopped him from living a full life. Whether on screen or off, he remains one of the most fascinating figures in Hollywood.